And God's judgment comes in at least three ways. First of all, God's judgment comes, but it comes slowly. It doesn't come swiftly. It doesn't come the way our judgment comes, like very fast, very erratic, very irrational, like swift judgment. No. God's judgment comes, but it comes slowly. He's patient in his judgment. God's judgment, secondly, it comes, but it comes surely. It comes slowly, but it comes surely. God's judgment is certain. It's inevitable. He's patient and he's slow to anger, but eventually it does come because God is faithful to keep his word and to do what he said he will do. So God's judgment, it comes surely. But third, God's judgment comes salvifically. Now that word salvifically, I promise you that's a word, okay? That's a real word. It's a theological word. And it just means like it comes and it brings salvation. It brings deliverance. It brings rescue. So God's judgment comes slowly. God's judgment comes surely. God's judgment comes salvifically. Let me show you. First of all, God's judgment comes slowly. In verse 1, it says, "Now the Lord had said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt." I want you to notice, first of all, it says, "Now the Lord had said to Moses." I'm reading from the New International Version, the NIV, and it's the only one of the modern translations that have that in the past tense. The Lord had said. If you read the English Standard Version, the ESV, or the NLT, or the King James, or the New King James, or any of the other translations, they actually put it in the present tense. Now the Lord said to Moses. But the NIV, I think, rightly translate this verb in the pluperfect tense, which brings it into the past tense. This is referring what God had said in the past. So where did God say this in the past? And there were multiple times. He says it in chapter 7, but he also says it in chapter 4. In chapter 4, then God says to Moses, he says, "Then say to Pharaoh, this is what the Lord says. Israel is my firstborn son. And I told you, let my son go so that he may worship me. But you refused to let him go. So I will kill your firstborn son." God had already told Moses to tell this to Pharaoh, right? He had told him several chapters earlier. And he says, like, look, you won't let my firstborn son go. He refers to Israel as his firstborn. You won't let my firstborn go. So I'm going to end up taking your firstborn. And so Pharaoh has a lot of notice. He's got a lot of leeway. He's got a lot of options. He's got opportunity to change course, to move in a different direction, to not bring this judgment upon himself. But he doesn't. God's judgment, it comes to Pharaoh, it comes slowly. It's 400 years of slavery, of injustice, of oppression. 430 years, actually, according to the New Testament. And then after 400 years, generation after generation after generation. Remember, God promised Abram in Genesis chapter 15 that he was going to bring rescue to his people when they were foreigners in a foreign land. That's in Egypt. And yet, God is patient. God is slow. God is waiting. We don't even know why God is waiting, but God is waiting. He's slow to anger. He's long-suffering. He's forbearing. He doesn't send one plague. He sends 10. 10 different chances. Think about how we work in our world. How often do we give someone 10 chances before we finally do the thing we said we were going to do? I grew up in a home where we played baseball. Baseball is very important to me and to my family even to this day. And baseball, you get 3 strikes, and after 3 strikes, you're out. My parents, when I was in trouble, they would call out to me. They'd say, "Hen, get over here." And if I didn't come right away, they would say 1, and then they'd say 2, and I knew I had to get there by 3, because 3 strikes, you're out. This is how it works. Like, you get 3 strikes and you're out. In fact, I was thinking this morning about this, and I was thinking of a story of my cousin EJ. My cousin EJ grew up in Staten Island. He's 7 years older than I am. But EJ was a great student. In fact, he finished number 2 in his high school. His twin brother, my cousin Henny, he finished number 1. So they were valedictorian and salutatorian. Great students, never in trouble, never in the principal's office. And one day, EJ's walking down the stairs, and he's in the hallway, and he's on his way to class, and there's a kid walking behind him who's a bully. And so the kid from behind him, EJ's wearing a hat, and the kid from behind him just like slaps him in the back of the head and like knocks the hat over. So EJ like puts his hat back on and looks at the kid and says, "Hey man, don't do that." And he keeps walking. And then a few minutes later, the kid just does it again. So that's strike 2. So EJ looks back at him and he says, "Hey man, that's the second time. Like, don't do that. Like, definitely don't knock off my hat." And he puts his hat on. He just keeps walking down the stairs. And then a moment later, the guy does it a 3rd time. So my cousin puts on his hat and he hustles down the stairs and he waits for this guy. And the guy finally comes down to the stairs. Now, I'm not advocating or recommending. I'm just telling you a story. This is just what happened. But the guy comes down the stairs. My cousin throws him in a headlock and starts going Nolan Ryan on him, right? He gets sent to the principal's office. Now, this is 20, 30 years ago at this time now, but he gets sent to the principal's office, and the principal asks him what happens, and my cousin tells him the story. He says, look, I was going down the stairs. He knocked my hat off. I told him, there's one, don't do it. And then I gave him a second warning, and then by the third time, I had to hit him. And the principal said, I get it. I understand. EJ, you can go back to class. I mean, again, not advocating violence. I tell my kids, we don't hit. Jesus tells us to turn the other cheek, right? And so don't fight back like that. But I'm just using that as a story to show you that even in our world, we understand like you get one chance, maybe two, maybe three, but after that, you're out. God doesn't work that way. And it's to our benefit that God doesn't work that way. He's patient. He's slow. He's long-suffering. He's forbearing. He gives them chance after chance after chance after chance after chance.